Our new packet is EE1-4. This is about expressions and equations. The first standard, EE1, is about simplifying expressions. And when we're simplifying these expressions, we're just looking for two steps. A, we look for the distributive property, and then B, we combine like terms. We're going to start with this problem number 3. An expression is given. Select all pairs of like terms, and that would be within this expression. So at first glance, 8 and 2 would be like terms, but 2 has this negative sign. So this answer choice does not work, but the third one does, because 8 and negative 2 are both constants. They're like terms. Looking at our next one, 2/5 x and 0.3x, well, those would be like terms, but looking in our expression, we have this negative 0.3x. So that one doesn't work. But this choice over here does work because 2/5 x and negative 0.3x are listed in the expression. And our last one, these are both terms in the expression, but one of them has x, the other has z. They are not like terms. Number 1 says an expression is given. Write an equivalent expression by combining like terms. So when we're simplifying, first we do look for distributive property, and we do not have that here. But we do have these like terms, 9x and negative 6x. And all we do is combine them and say, well, if I have 9 x's, I subtract 6 x's, I have 3 x's. I'll bring down that minus 7y, and we're done. On number 6, find the difference of the two expressions. Well, the first expression, 4/5 k plus 1, I can just bring that down. There's nothing else I can do with that at the moment. But then I have this negative or minus 3/5 k minus 2. So I'm just going to, it's like I'm saying a negative 1, and I'm going to multiply it by each term. Or if you can think, if I'm just multiplying every term by a negative sign, it's just going to change their signs. This was positive 3/5 x, now it's negative 3/5, k, not x. And then negative times negative 2. A negative times negative 2 is a positive 2. And now I just look to see what like terms I have. I have 4/5 k minus 3/5 k is 1/5 k. And then I have constants that are like terms. 1 plus 2 is 3. And we're done. Standard EE2 is about equivalent expressions, and typically these problems are dealing with percentages of increase or decrease, such as sales tax or discounts, and changing them into decimal forms of the same expression. So we're going to start with problem number 1. The sales tax rate is 6%. We know that is an increase. If the price of a movie ticket is X dollars, write an expression for the cost of the ticket, including tax. So we have to think for a minute. If we have all of the movie ticket cost, 100% of X, and we have a sales tax of 6%, we're going to add 6% of X. We could get equivalent expressions several different ways. We could write that as 106% of X. We could write this as 100% of X is 1X, plus 6% of X is 0.06X, which equals 1.06X. All of these are equivalent expressions. They all mean the same thing. Number 5, a store increases profits by marking up the price of soda by 15%. Which expression represents the new price of the soda if the original cost is S dollars? So if I take 100% of S, and we're going to mark this up, so we're going to add 15% of S. That's one expression that would mean this. We could rewrite that as 1S plus 0.15S. We could write this as 1.15S when we add those together, which happens to be answer choice B. The next standard, EE3, is about problem solving. Number 1, the perimeter of a room is 43 feet. The width is 9.5 feet. What is the length? When I'm problem solving, I have to think, what is it asking for and what information does it give me? Many of these will involve multiple steps to get to our final answer. This one's not too bad though. This one is just giving us perimeter and width and asking for length. Well, we know there's a little formula for that. We know the perimeter of a rectangle, and we are assuming it's a rectangle. It really wasn't clear here. But the perimeter of a rectangle is twice the length plus twice the width. So I'm just going to plug in these values and say, well, the perimeter is 43. We don't know the length, but we do know the width is 9.5, and I'm going to change that over to a decimal so it's a little easier to work with. And then we just simplify and say, okay, 2 times 9.5 is 19. I've now just got a two-step equation to solve, so I'm going to subtract 19 from both sides. The result is 24 equal twice the length. I'm going to rewrite that over here. And now to get the length by itself, we're going to divide both sides by 2. And we find that the length is 12, so to answer the question, 12 feet. Number 2, a new lawn has a perimeter of 278 feet and a width of 64 feet. A bag of grass seed will cover 384 square feet of ground. How many bags of grass seed are needed to seed the new lawn? Okay, so I need to know how many bags of grass seed. To do that, I need to know how much square foot of grass seed is needed and divide by 384 square feet of ground for each bag of grass seed. Well, to get that, we need to know the area. The information we need for the area is the length and the width, but we don't know the length. What we do know is the perimeter and the width, which will get us the length. So that's how we're going to approach this, is we're going to start with finding the length. So here's the first step. We're going to use this formula. The perimeter is equal to twice the length plus twice the width. We know the perimeter is 278. We don't know the length, but we do know the width is 64 feet. So I'm just going to simplify this. And we're going to solve it for L. So I'm going to subtract 128 from both sides. We get 150 is equal to twice the length. Divide both sides by 2, and we find that 75 is the length. Okay? Now we need to get the area. Well, the area is pretty quick to find. The area of a rectangle is length times width, and we know that the length is 75. I should have plugged this in. Oh, sorry. We know the length is 75. We know that the width was 64. And so the area is 75 times 64, which is 4,800. Okay, so we have now got the area. Now we need to find how many bags of grass seed that will be, and all we have to really do is say, well, 4,800 divided by 384, and we do get 12.5 bags of grass seed. Answer choice D. So notice it took us some steps, but we just kind of looked at what we knew, what it was looking for, and kept thinking, well, what do I need to get that next piece of information? Or what do I need to keep on going back and getting more information? Number 5, the cost for a bakery to make a dozen muffins is $2.52. The sale price of an individual muffin is $2.99. For one day, the bakery will donate half the profits from muffin sales to a charity. What is the bakery's donation in dollars if 88 muffins are sold that day? So this has several steps to it. But here's how I would start with this, is I would recognize, okay, when you figure out the cost to the bakery to make these 88 muffins, we need to know how much they bring in sales selling the muffins. Then we subtract sales minus cost to get the profit for the bakery. And last, we need to figure out what half of that is. Okay, so let's start with this fact that they're making a dozen muffins. Or a dozen muffins is $2.52, and they've got 88 of these. So I've got to think for a minute. 88 divided by 12 for a dozen would come out to 7.3 repeating. Well, it sounds like they make a dozen at a time, so we need to make 8 dozen muffins. 8 times a cost of $2.52 equal a cost of $20.16. And so I'm going to go over here and note that is the cost for the bakery. Now the bakery is going to sell these muffins $2.99 each. And we know they sell 88 muffins. So we're going to multiply $2.99 times 88 muffins to get $263.12 in sales. Okay, so we know the cost, we know the sales, so let's find out the profit. We're going to take the sales, $263.12, and subtract the cost, $20.16. So sales minus cost to equal the profit, which is $242.96. And last, once we know the profit and we know it's half of that, we can say, okay, what's half of $242.96? I'm going to divide it by 2. To get that half of it is $121.48. And we're finished with this problem.